I am Katie, a 29-year-old office worker, with an older brother named John, who is 3 years my senior. John has always been carefree, often appropriating things that belong to me and our parents for his own enjoyment. He would even coerce me into giving him my pocket money, only to spend it on himself. While our parents would get upset with his behavior, it was my father who was particularly furious when John took and broke a small model he cherished, a limited edition that was no longer available. This incident made John stop taking things from our father, but he continued to feel entitled to mine and our mother's belongings. My mother was livid when he took her perfume and saturated the kids' room with its overpowering scent. Despite becoming subdued in front of our parents, John would still take my dolls and either destroy them or give away my toy accessories to his friends. Initially, I thought I had simply lost these items, until one day I discovered a disfigured doll in John's trash can that should have been in my room. Confronting him in tears, I found little sympathy from John, who argued that I was to blame for not taking better care of my toys. His persuasive manner made me feel as though I was at fault. Over time, I learned to diligently tidy up my toys, and by middle school, to keep my money in a safe my father had bought me for my birthday. I had to alter the safe's combination monthly to safeguard my belongings from John. I didn't want to risk losing my brother by disclosing the situation to our parents, so I remained silent. In middle school, I obtained a lock for my room. My father acknowledged that it was natural for someone my age to desire privacy, promptly installing it. Though John appeared resentful in our parents' presence, I felt victorious. Now, John couldn't access the allowance I received. I hoped he would return the money he took, but he'd likely deny the occurrence. Besides, the exact amount he took remains unclear to me now. Therefore, I decided not to dwell on it. As I commenced college and began working part-time, I realized the money John took could easily be earned in a month, so it seemed trivial. While I pursued my studies in college, John graduated and secured a job at a distant company. He encountered difficulties with job interviews, ultimately landing a position at our Aunt Kate's company. Despite her reluctance due to family favoritism, Aunt Kate relented due to his persistence. I learned from Aunt Kate that John would wait outside her company daily, pleading for a job. I sympathized with Aunt Kate, feeling sorry that John harassed her into giving him a job. He only seemed to heed those who expressed anger openly, otherwise, his desires took precedence. As his sister, my objections were always dismissed as mere sibling rebellion. Since he moved out, our contact had been minimal. To my surprise, John brought home a woman named Courtney, a stunning beauty who could easily be a model. However, her inner beauty didn't match her outward appearance. Courtney accompanied John to our family home to formally announce their marriage. With a smirk, she mentioned the possibility of presenting grandchildren to our parents, subtly implying that I might not fulfill that role, which bothered me slightly. However, my perceptive parents swiftly addressed Courtney's attitude. They made it clear that they never demanded grandchildren from their children, and emphasized that having children doesn't define one's worth in today's diverse world. My mother's message was clear. Courtney's declaration of intending to provide grandchildren was an unnecessary attempt to assert dominance over me. Upon hearing my mother's words, Courtney seemed to grasp the message and responded somewhat begrudgingly. It appeared as though she and John shared a similar mindset. While John had learned not to oppose our parents or tamper with their belongings, he and Courtney felt no hesitation in acting selfishly towards me, including taking my things without permission. After the meeting, Courtney suggested we exchange contact information, though she hadn't done so with my parents, assuming it was merely a formality. I agreed to exchange contact information with Courtney. However, she began contacting me unnecessarily, making unwelcome remarks about my personal life. "Hey Katie, I heard you're 29 and still without a boyfriend, almost hitting 30 and still toying with your looks. Finding someone after 30 will be nearly impossible," she said. Her comments were unsolicited and annoying, prompting frustration within me. It seemed rude to only read and not reply to my future sister-in-law, so I messaged her back, saying, "You don't need to worry about me." To which she responded with a taunting "play tough." Whether it was my brother John or Courtney, it seemed they couldn't communicate without belittling me. Considering the constant belittling messages from her, I wondered if there was any point in keeping her contact information. So, I asked my parents, "I keep getting these kinds of messages from Courtney every day. Is it okay if I block her? We might not be able to communicate after that." Unlike John, who had blocked her parents to avoid nagging, I thought blocking her wouldn't completely sever our communication since John would likely unblock me if necessary. Feeling refreshed, I went ahead and blocked Courtney's contact. Later, when Courtney came to our house with John, she criticized me for blocking her. "Isn't that a bit harsh for someone who's going to be family? That's why you don't have a man," she said. I replied firmly, "I'm not free enough to entertain someone who has nothing better to do than mock me daily." I blocked both John's and Courtney's numbers because dealing with their constant mockery, even though they have no legitimate reason to contact me, is just too troublesome. Family ties don't matter in this case. I'm taking measures to prevent getting hurt. My parents respect my feelings, so I never had to apologize to John or Courtney. As a result, our family and they don't really interact much, except possibly at formal events. After John and Courtney's wedding, we had no contact. However, a situation arose that forced us to interact: my mother's funeral. My father and I were deeply saddened by her unexpectedly early death. Though my father informed John about the wake and funeral, John read the message but didn't show up for the wake. He and Courtney only appeared at the funeral. "What have you been doing all this time?" "Can't help it. I've been busy," John replied dismissively when I questioned him about his absence. His unserious attitude infuriated me. However, I chose to calm down, not wanting to cause a scene at my mother's funeral. Arguing with John would only waste time and attract unwanted attention during the solemn occasion. If I had yelled at my brother, it would have drawn attention from everyone around us, and I wanted to give my mother a dignified send-off, so I chose to step back. I often wonder who really is the older one between us. Amidst the flurry of greeting relatives, assisting my father, and bidding farewell to my mother, my brother, despite our mother's passing, behaved as if he were merely a guest, displaying an attitude as if he had been invited to be there. The relatives, though skeptical, chose not to stir the pot by ignoring his demeanor. However, an incident occurred soon after. During a brief break, John and Courtney suddenly announced, "Well, we're going to head out," and promptly left. My father and I, caught up in our business, couldn't even call out to stop them from leaving abruptly. However, we soon realized that their presence or absence made little difference, and we decided to ignore their departure. As the funeral concluded, my Aunt Kate came to speak with me. Unbelievably, I received a message from Courtney, whom I had previously blocked. "Guess what, Katie? We've been cutting back on shopping because we're a bit short on money lately. But I thought it's not good to keep holding back, so we decided to borrow your credit card." Stunned, I replied, "My credit card? Well, how can you contact me if I blocked you?" I had just created a new account when Courtney's message popped up. "Silly, can't believe you didn't think of that. Dumb and almost dirty with an average face. No wonder you can't get married," she wrote. Her usual mockery was irritating, but this time, she said something concerning. When I asked what she meant by borrowing my credit card, insisting that I wouldn't hand it over, she sent a laughing dog sticker. Confused, I asked, "What are you talking about?" "I've already borrowed it. Why didn't you check your wallet?" My credit card was still in my wallet, which puzzled me until Courtney added more details. "We've been shopping online like crazy. Already spent $20,000, she said. Kate, who was nearby, could only shrug, indicating she was beyond help. It seemed Courtney, having fled with John, was now openly flaunting her actions, implicating John as her accomplice. Inwardly, I thought, good luck with that, as I pictured both John and Courtney laughing heartily. I asked Courtney, "Do you even know whose credit card this is?" Without seeking the real intent behind my question, Courtney replied dismissively, "What are you talking about? Just wait, I'll use it even more." It appeared they were oblivious to the pit they were digging for themselves. Their lack of awareness astounded me, but it didn't take half a day before a frantic call came from Courtney. Picking up, she blurted out, "Hey, your credit card stopped working." Thinking she still believed it was my credit card. I couldn't help but silently consider her foolishness. However, I responded firmly, "Well, it makes sense that the real owner of the credit card would have it stopped immediately, doesn't it?" Confused, Courtney asked, "What do you mean, the real owner?" "You're the owner, so why is it real?" Didn't you understand what I just said? I urged her to check the name on the credit card properly. After my insistence, Courtney finally checked the name on the card, and from the other end, I heard her surprised voice, "Kate Owen, could it be? Since my name is Katie Owen and my aunt's name is Kate Owen, our names differ by just one character." Courtney must have mistaken Aunt Kate's card for mine. It seemed Courtney never considered she could mistake the card for someone else's, given her limited interaction with other relatives. Yes, that's right. Kate Owen is our aunt and also the president of the company where my brother John begged on his knees to be employed. John and Courtney had unwittingly picked a feud with the president of the company John had desperately sought employment from. The gravity of their mistake was clear, even to Courtney, who was clearly panicking over the phone, forgetting. I was on the line when she called out, John, this credit card says Kate Owen. It's not the sister. It's the aunt. What do we do?" But John's response was unbelievable. "Ah, messed up there, but Aunt Kay has no children, and I'm the only relative working at her company. I'll probably inherit it anyway, so she'll cover this expense, no problem." This was heard by Aunt Kate as well, because the call was on speakerphone. Taking my phone, Aunt Kate said, "Who said you're the successor? I plan to choose the next president based on merit, and I'm nowhere near retirement. Who would entrust the company to someone who can't even handle their job?" Caught off guard by Aunt Kate's sudden interjection, John explained, "What? Why is she? Hey, Courtney, why didn't you tell me Aunt Kate was there? I thought Katie was the only one on the call." Perhaps John thought anything he said would be excused if only I were listening. However, being close to my aunt, I would have shared everything with her. "You'll be informed of your punishment later, and you'll repay every penny you've squandered in full. And if you complain, I'll get a lawyer ready. Just you wait." Aunt Kate ended the call. Despite John's desperate pleas for employment at her company, he had caused a significant mess, as expected. Kate demanded repayment of the misused funds from John and Courtney, claiming they had spent $20,000. Their lack of savings meant they had to borrow to settle the debt. Even then, John and Courtney's plea, "We'll pay in full, so please don't fire us," showed their failure to grasp their situation. Smiling, Kate said, "I have the perfect job for you," and managed to transfer their debt to someone else, rumored to be a wealthy individual looking for servants. Curious, I once asked Aunt Kate what became of them, but her smile made me too afraid to probe further. Some things are better left unknown after all. Despite these incidents, thanks to Aunt Kate's indifference, my mother's funeral was concluded peacefully, and we could send her off properly. Now, I find solace in thinking John and Courtney are somewhere out there, hopefully reflecting on their actions. I'm Katie, a 29-year-old office worker with an older brother named John, who is 3 years older than me. Throughout our childhood, John was carefree, often appropriating our belongings for his amusement. Despite our parents' frustration with his behavior, he continued taking things, even coercing me into giving him my pocket money, leaving me with nothing. Dad was particularly furious when John broke a limited edition model from his hobby collection. Though this incident made him refrain from taking Dad's belongings, he still felt entitled to mine and Mom's possessions. Mom was livid when John used her perfume to overpower the kids' room with its scent. Even though John became subdued in front of our parents, he continued his mischievous acts when they weren't around. He would either destroy or give away my toys, convincing me it was my fault for not taking better care of them. One day, I discovered a disfigured doll in John's trash can that should have been in my room, leading to a tearful confrontation. However, he deflected blame, arguing that it was my responsibility. To cope with his actions, I learned to diligently tidy up my toys and by middle school, started using a safe my father gifted me to protect my money. Monthly changes to the combination became a necessity to shield my belongings from John. Despite my desire to maintain family harmony, I decided to keep quiet about the situation. In middle school, my father installed a lock on my room, assuring me that privacy was normal for someone my age. John, though resentful, couldn't access my allowance anymore. While I wished for him to return the money he took, I knew he would deny it, and the exact amount remained unclear. As I entered college and started working part-time, I realized the money John took could be easily earned in a month, making it seem trivial. Meanwhile, John struggled with job interviews and ended up working at our Aunt Kate's company, thanks to his relentless pursuit despite her initial reluctance due to family issues.